Hey guys, Tyler here, and thanks for checking out this video. And we are about to be able to reach at least Renown 30 this next coming week. So that means most of our Soulbind trees are going to be completely finished. Unfortunately, not the Necrolords, but we'll still talk about those. So in this video, I'm going to show you what you should be soulbinding and which conduits to pick for every single covenant, whether that be the popular choices in Night Fae, or the unpopular choices in the Venthyr or the Necrolords. So be sure, and if you're looking for a certain one, timestamps are below for which section. So let's get started.
Mr. Eggplant presents.
So for the first covenant we're going to talk about today, it's going to be the Soulbinds and the conduits for the Kyrian. And this is using the Wowhead Soulbind calculator, so be sure and check that out. I'll put a link in the description of the video below if you want to kind of try some different things, some different combinations. It doesn't cost you any of the little gems like it does in game, so be sure and take advantage of it. So we are going to be soulbinding with Pelagos. So first you're going to run with Combat Meditation. You don't get a choice in that, unfortunately, but it's still a really good one. It gives you a large amount of mastery while your arrow is up. And then the first conduit is going to be Enfeebled Mark, which increases the damage that you do to enemies while they're inside the arrow circle. From there, Focusing Mantra is what you pick. You don't get a choice in that as well, but it does lower the cooldown of your File of Serenity, which is always really nice. And then we get the first Endurance Conduit. So I either run with Resilience of the Hunter or Rejuvenating Wind. I tend to run with Rejuvenating Wind more when I'm just doing like day-to-day things, just because it gives me a little bit more of a heal. I think it's up to 15%, but it's over the next 10 seconds after you use Exhilaration. But once you get like an item level 200 or above, Resilience of the Hunter is really, really nice, and you're going to see it on every single Marksman Hunter calculator that we're going to run today. Because whenever you use your Feign Death and you pop up, you take X% reduced damage for 8 seconds. If you do that on fights like Sludge Fist when he's about to slam one of the pillars or something like that, you can save yourself a lot of damage, and it's just really, really nice, and it does last for 8 seconds. From here, you can choose either Bond of Friendship, which from a pure like rating point of view is probably the better one, because then you can use your Steward's abilities faster, which does include switching talents. But I tend to run with the Cleansing Vestments because you get so many pieces of cloth, so much enchanting materials, and that stuff really sells for a lot of money. I would highly suggest running with the Cleansed Vestments, but it doesn't really affect your damage at all. From there, I would run with Powerful Precision. In fact, I'm running with that right now on my Night Fae Marksman Hunter before I end up switching to an Endurance come this coming week. But just increases the damage of your precise shot procs by up to 11% for an item level 213 conduit. It does go up from there, obviously. From here, I run with Reversal of Fortune. It's actually the best and really kind of the only finesse conduit that's worth taking. When you successfully interrupt something, you get 10 focus, and once you get the 226, it's 11 focus. So it just gives you a nice amount of focus for doing what you're supposed to be doing in Mythic Plus, Raid, PvP, you name it, it works. And then finally, we have Let Go of the Past, which kind of does get in the way of your steady focus build, but this is really the final one. Pelagos is really front-loaded. That's one reason why Kyrians want to run with him. So the second covenant is going to be the Necrolords, and we are going to be soulbinding with a mini. I'm really hoping I say his name right. And also, I will say, this is the only one that takes more than Renown 30. As you're watching this video, we'll be able to hit 30. This one does require 34 to get the final trait, but it isn't like a major trait, so it still works out. You still get your 2 potency, your 1 endurance, and your 1 finesse that we're looking for, plus some really good options like this first one. Which is going to be Lead by Example. So whenever you're using your Death Chakram, you just get 5% increased agility, which it's a percentage thing, so it will get better throughout the expansion, which is really nice. From here, you're going to want to run with your first Potency Conduit. So this is where you can do a couple things. If you're wanting to do pure damage, most bang for your buck, you're going to want to run with Powerful Precision up here. So just like we said earlier, precise shots do more damage. But if you're looking for somebody, if you're not somebody who's doing cutting edge, whatever, you're probably not Necrolord if you are trying to do cutting edge whatever you may be doing. But try Necrotic Barrage. It's just a quality of life conduit. It doesn't do a huge amount of increased damage, but it does give you more focus, and it is just, like I said, a quality of life potency conduit that you might give a shot. Either one will work for you, Powerful Precision or Necrotic Barrage. From here, you're going to run with his Magnificent Skin, so it just gives you an increased amount of max health when you use your Fleshcraft ability. Then we come down to our first Finesse Conduit, which you're going to see a lot of dupes once you go from either one Covenant or the other, because there's one Finesse that's really good, there's a couple Endurance that are really good, and you won't deviate from that too much. So it's going to be Reversal of Fortune, so whenever you interrupt, 10 focus comes your way. From here, you can pretty much choose what you want. I prefer this one as just a staying alive, quality of life thing. Which whenever you take falling damage, all that health loss becomes a shield for 30 seconds. You never know when that could save your life, particularly in PvP if you're doing some BGs, that sort of thing. From down here, you're going to want to run with either Resilience of the Hunter or Rejuvenating Wind. I've said that in the Kyrian portion of this. Resilience of the Hunter is the best though. You take that reduced damage from everything, not just the boss, whenever you pop up from your feigned death. Finally, down here, this is going to be our last potency conduit, and like I said earlier, if you chose Powerful Precision up there, you're probably not going to choose it down here because you can't. So you'll want to run with either the one you didn't pick up here, Necrotic Barrage, or Powerful Precision, or Sharpshooter's Focus. That just increases the... Here, let's go ahead and do that for you real quick. It just makes your true shot last longer, 31%. I believe that's around 4.1, 4.2 seconds or so. So it's not a huge deal, but it is enough to get a couple more rapid fires out potentially, or a couple more of your coveted aim shots. And then finally, like I said, we can't get this for a couple more weeks, but Grizzled Toes, whenever you're moving near a nearby enemy, you gain 3% movement speed, and that stacks 5 times up to 15%. And the third covenant is going to be the covenant of choice for a large majority of marksman hunters, which is going to be the Night Fae, and this is actually the one that I'm running with. So we are, of course, soulbinding with Naya, who I've been soulbinding with the entire time. And the first one is going to be the Grove Invigoration. Just gives you that stacking amount of mastery. You automatically get stacks when you use your Wild Spirits, and it's just a really, really nice ability. From here, you're running with the Spirit Attunement, which is the potency conduit of choice for 99.9% of Night Fae marksman hunters, which just increases the duration of your Wild Spirits, and you do 15.5% increased damage, which continues to go up throughout the leveling process of your conduits. From here, you don't really get a choice, so it's going to be run without tiring. You're in your soul shape, you regenerate 5% of your max health every 3 seconds, which could save your life in a raiding situation or in PvP. Then we come up with the Finesse Conduit once again, which is going to be Reversal of Fortune. You interrupt something, you get focus back. That's pretty much how it works. Then I'd choose the Nature Splendor. It's basically just like Pelagos, only you get leather, meat, fish, that sort of thing. I've made a lot of feasts with this, so it does proc fairly often too. Then you're going to have your first Endurance Conduit, which is going to be Resilience of the Hunter. Like I said earlier, you feign death, you pop back up, you take reduced damage for 8 seconds. It's just really nice. It's reduced damage across the board. It's not like Markman's Advantage, where it's just who you have your Hunter's Mark on. So I really prefer the Resilience of the Hunter. Unfortunately, my conduit is still 184, so I had been using the Rejuvenating Wind for a while as well. And then down here, this week, I had been running with a Potency Conduit, which I'd be running with your Powerful Precision here, because it was better than just having another Endurance Conduit. But once you are able to open up your Renown 30, which we can this coming week, you're going to shift over here to the Endurance Conduit. This is where I run with a Rejuvenating Wind. Like I said earlier, you could also run with Markman's Advantage. That one works too. You just have to make sure and use your Hunter's Mark on the target and make sure that the target is doing the damage to you and not like, AoE, the environment, that sort of thing. And then you're going to get Naya's Tools, which is going to be Burrs. This thing is amazing. It is like a trinket, or a little bit more than a trinket's worth of damage. So you're like 2 to 3% of your overall damage is going to come just from this Soulbind, which is really cool. And as you can see there, it does go up with your attack power, so it's going to continue to go ahead and scale throughout the tier and the expansion. And the final covenant is going to be the Venthyr, and you're going to want to Soulbind with Najia the Mistblade. I'm really hoping I said her name right. So for the first one, it's going to be Thrill Seeker. You start gaining Thrill Seeker stacks. Whenever you reach 40, you get Haste. Your Haste is increased by 20% for 10 seconds, which is basically a small Bloodlust, which is really nice. And then the first potency conduit is going to be Empowered Release, which has to do with your Flayed Shot. So it increases the chance that Flayed Shot will proc the Flayer's Mark, and then also your next kill shot is increased by the same percentage. So it can be really nice coupled with low health enemies and Master Marksman with high crit. Then we're going to run with Agent of Chaos, just disorients when you use your Door of Shadows near enemies. Followed by your Finesse Conduit, you've heard me say this a bunch. Reversal of Fortune, you interrupt something, you successfully interrupt something, you gain focus back. Then down here with Friends in Low Places, you just loot more infused rubies there in Revendreth, and the Dredgers have some expanded goods to show you. That's pretty much that. Followed by the Endurance Conduit, Resilience of the Hunter. Of course, you've heard me say this a bunch of times. You feign death, you pop up, you take less damage for 8 seconds from everything. Great in PvP, PvE, you name it, it's just all around. Might save your life. And then finally down here, up until this week, you would have probably run with like a Sharpshooter's Focus or a Precision, or a Powerful Precision here. But since we can now get to these final Renown levels, you want to get to Dauntless Duelist. So to do that, you do need to pick another Finesse Conduit. So this one is kind of up for debate. I prefer Cheetah's Vigor because I use Cheetah more. It lowers its cooldown by 21 seconds, and then the extra movement speed is increased by 3 seconds. You could also pick Tactical Retreat or this one here, but I really feel like they're lackluster. And Disengage slows enemies, maybe that's good for PvP, but I still prefer the Cheetah's Vigor. And then the last one is going to be Dauntless Duelist. So you want to make sure and attack the priority target, like the boss, that sort of thing, first. When you go into combat, you mark them as your adversary. You deal 3% more damage to them. They do less damage to you. It's basically like extra versatility, honestly, because the versatility is, you do 3%, they deal half of that less to you. And you only get to pick one at a time, obviously, so you want to make sure and attack that priority target first. So thanks for checking out the video, guys. I hope you really enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something. If you have any questions on why I picked why I did, be sure and ask below. If you want to check out any of my other videos, whether that be my Mythic Plus, any of my rating, that sort of thing, you can be sure and check those out over on my channel. I have a playlist just for those, as well as my 9.0 guide that I'm still updating each and every day. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Be sure and check me out at Twitch at twitch.tv/MrEggplant. And I'll see you in the next video.